How's it going, everybody? Sam here with another beta nomad survival video. Today we're going to be going over the evolution paths for the Necromancers. So taking a look, the skill SP has gone down, but let's look at the weapon skill because it has changed a little bit. It's going to be called Dark Omen. Conjure a permanent raven ally which attacks enemies that are closest to you with +5 base damage. Amount does not increase the number of ravens. When acquiring max SP, the raven curses its target. Interesting. When the target dies, summon a skeleton to fight for you in its place. The skeleton targets a random enemy. Amount does not increase number of curses or summons. Up to 5 skeletons can coexist. The movement speed of summons is based on projectile speed and movement speed. So there is a lot of changes here. So looks like you have a raven that is permanently there. It does damage whenever. It's not something that you need, SP to deal damage with, but when your SP is at max, the raven applies a curse to a target, and as it dies, you finally summon a skeleton. So these skeletons target random enemies. Doesn't say anything about, the skeletons only last for a certain amount of time or anything like that, but you can only have 5 at any time. And then movement speed is based on projectile speed and movement speed, so not just projectile speed anymore. And then down here the statement has changed a little bit, so it says unless otherwise stated in its description or when evolving a weapon skill, all stats affect weapon skills. Every 2 amount grants 1 additional weapon skill attack. Additional attacks from amount inflict half damage unless otherwise stated. Weapon skills from spectral swords do not benefit from amount. So a couple changes. So every 2 amount is just 1 for the weapon skills. That was how it was already, but this is just actually plainly worded out here, so that's nice. And then additional attacks from amount inflict half damage. So say amount actually worked for this raven and you had 2 ravens, that second raven that's created from amount is going to deal half the damage unless it says that, oh, this deals full damage. And then weapon skills from spectral swords do not benefit from amount. So spectral sword is not going to give you a bunch of bonus stuff. So we're going to be playing on WXP, so we'll hit level 30 really quickly, and I will go ahead and skip to that. This is what the raven looks like. You can see him right there. It's just going around, and as it kills things, when my XP gets maxed, it summons the skeletons, which look the same. They look a little bit bigger though, I have to say. So we'll go ahead, skip to level 30 so we can take a look at those evolution paths. Alright guys, we're about to hit level 30 here in a second. We'll get to take a look at what these evolution paths are. So we have 2 paths with Unkindness increasing the XP to 600, where Slave Ritual stays at 500. So Unkindness, conjure additional permanent ravens depending on amount divided by 2. Additional ravens target random enemies. The maximum amount of skeletons that can coexist becomes 5 plus the number of additional ravens that you have summoned. So let's say we have 10 amount, right? That'll be divided by 2, so that'll be 5. Which means we'll have 5 additional ravens, and this means that you can have 10 skeletons total. So pretty interesting. Just seems like there's going to be more summons, so that's always good. Slave Ritual is a circle is created at your raven's current position. The circle does not follow the raven. Enemies that die within the circle are reanimated as skeletons. Interesting. Your raven no longer curses its targets, and up to 30 skeletons can coexist. Amount does not affect the number of circles created. Very interesting. That one seems like it's going to be fun. So it summons that circle, and then things that die in that circle are going to be spawned, basically. It doesn't follow the raven around you, but I'm assuming it casts occasionally. We'll take a look. I'm actually going to go with Slave Ritual first, just because there's a lot of mobs on my screen right now. So there's a circle, and looks like no enemies are going to get to it. But it does look like it summons multiple, so it looks like there's like 4 at a time. And as you see down there, a lot of skeletons just died on it. And some are summoning up there. So it seems like this definitely is a great way to get a lot of summons. I mean, it said you could have up to 30 at a time. The only thing is making sure you don't actually kill things too fast, because it looks like that's something we're running into here. So you'll probably have like an ebb and flow of skeletons, and it all depends on where the raven is as things die, basically. So overall, looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and skip to level 60 so we can see what the 2 evolution paths are from this slave path. Alright guys, about to hit level 60 here. I did end up going mech skill size. That really helps with the Raven's little spawn circle. It also makes the skeletons kind of big, so I don't feel as sad, you know, because originally you had so many skeletons, it's not even funny. But with the increased skill size, definitely doable to get the same amount of skeletons, if not a couple more than we had originally. So let's take a look at the next two. So we have two options here, Undying Army and Volatile Bones. Undying Army, the SP cost goes down to 400, where Volatile Bones just stays at 500. So looks like Undying Army is kind of what we had before, but when a skeleton is created, there's a 20% chance that it is a skeleton archer, and a 10% chance that it's a skeleton mage. All attacks inflict damage equal to your weapon skill damage. So that's really nice. So just flat damage is going to be huge here. And this also means that we're not limited in how many mages and archers we have. This means we could have 30 mages if we're really lucky. Overall, that's really, really nice. Volatile Bones, whenever some skeleton despawns, they explode, inflicting damage equal to your weapon skill upon nearby enemies. Additional explosions are unleashed scattered around the initial blast for an amount divided by 2. Additional explosions do not have their damage reduced. So, that seems really fun. Kind of seems like, the cultist a little bit, whereas it explodes and then it explodes a little extra around the outside. I could see this being really fun, but I'll go with Undying Army for this first one. We'll just take a look. I mean, as you can see already, oh my, that is huge. We already had, you know, some archers and some mages spawn. The mage looks a little bit better. The archer sounds like it's attacking a little bit faster, but I could be a little crazy. But in general, this feels like it was before, basically. I mean, I'm not really worried about any enemies getting close to me. The Raven is a nice little bonus because it does seem a little bit faster than the other AI, just barely. But this definitely you're gonna have a lot of skeletons at the same time. So overall, definitely think this is a interesting way for this evolution path. Definitely didn't like completely destroy the character or anything like that. But I'm going to go ahead and get to level 60 again real quick, and we're going to check out the Explodey Bones. So I will skip to level 60. Alright guys, about to hit level 60 again. Went and made sure that I had as many amount as possible so that we could see what those explosions really look like when you have as high as possible. Just one more time, Volatile Bones. Whenever some skeleton despawns, they explode, inflicting damage equal to your weapon skill damage upon nearby enemies. Additional explosions are unleashed scattered around the initial blast for each amount divided by 2. Additional explosions do not have their damage reduced, so just lots of damage. Gonna be a little hard to see. I'll move up a little bit. Sadly, there's not like that many mobs right now, but in general, the explosion's pretty large. I haven't seen how much damage they do, though. I'll try and keep track of this guy. Looks like it's just weapon damage, so around like 1600 currently. But that's a lot of AoE, so this is going to be really good for maps like Ruined Dungeon. I definitely think this is an interesting way for the Necromancer to evolve. In general, I don't think it's a negative because you still have the same amount of damage you would have normally from all your skeletons. Granted, we don't have any mages or archers by default, but you can get them. But just plainly for what this skill is doing, it's really great damage, and then you get that extra little explosion, so you get a little extra on the way out. I'm gonna go ahead and get to level 30, and I will see you guys then. Alright guys, about to hit level 30 here, and just for a quick reminder, Unkindness is the second evolution path, and you conjure additional permanent ravens depending on your amount divided by 2. Additional ravens target random enemies. The maximum amount of skeletons that can coexist becomes 5 plus the number of additional ravens you have. So right now I don't have a ton of amount, so I think we could probably only have 7, because I just have a couple levels in amount right now. But in general, the clear speed, it's just going to be almost as good as it was already, just a little bit faster maybe. Whereas in the other path, you know, we have multiple skeletons, now we have additional ravens. And the ravens themselves do really good damage, so I don't think this is a negative. The ravens do seem to move a little bit faster than the skeletons do. and they also target enemies closest to you, so they're actually going to be pretty strong for bossing. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip to level 60 so we can see what the 2 evolution paths are for the Raven Massacre, or Birdemic as some may call them. Alright guys, about to hit level 60, and I have to say, the Ravens are doing a great job. I got my amount maxed out as much as possible. So we have the max amount of, mimics your first weapon skill evolution if applicable. That's cool. But the Ravens, as you can see, there's nothing on my screen. So the Ravens, with all of this additional movement speed and stuff like that, really fantastic and clear. So let's take a look at the 2 abilities. Looks like they're impacting the Ravens themselves, so that's kind of cool. Both are going to be costing 600, so no changes there. Soulstealr. Whenever an enemy is killed, if a Raven is nearby, their soul is ripped from their body and launched towards you, circling around you with gradually increasing speed. All enemies hit by the soul take damage equal to your weapon skill with 3 times base damage. So that's actually a lot of damage, because the Ravens are hitting like 1k plus right now, right? So that's going to be dealing 3,000 damage. Who knows how many times these stack, if you can have 1 soul, if you can have multiple souls, etc. The only negative is just the fact I don't know how many enemies are actually going to get close to my body. So this might be really good on the 3rd map, but for the 1st and 2nd map, I don't think you really need it. Especially because I'm not going any additional weapon skills right now. I have Colorless Cliff, it's level 1, I get that for fun. But if you were to actually build other weapon skills, I'm not sure if this would see too much playability. The second option is Spirit Hunter. Enemy projectiles that hit your Ravens are destroyed. Whenever a Raven destroys an enemy projectile, the Raven becomes empowered for a short time, doubling its movement speed and damage. Additional empowerment from projectiles increases okay. So this is going to be very strong on the 3rd map. On this map and the 1st map, it's not that big of a deal. There's not that many projectiles, and by projectiles, it really just means enemy skill. So this is going to be really good for bossing, as every boss skill counts as a projectile. So this is going to be great for multiple reasons. It's going to increase your damage a ton, but you also destroy the projectile. So normally I would say go the Summoner Heritage, so that you have that additional kind of help. The Summoner Heritage will destroy projectiles, similar to this one, but now you have it with your main weapon skill. So that's going to be huge. I'm going to go ahead and go Soulstealr for the first one. Actually, I'm going to go Spirit Hunter just because I have a ton of projectile speed. And we'll see. The only negative is that there's not really any projectiles on this map for the first, like, 5-10 minutes. Around 8 or 9, when those little bugs start spawning, those technically are projectiles. So we'll have to give it a second. I'm just going to kind of pick up whatever. So... alright, the moonlight is intensifying. Hopefully we could find one of those bugs real quick. In general though, I mean the Ravens are hitting for like 1500 occasionally. I don't think those bugs spawn until 9 minutes, so we might have to wait a second here. Because technically those little bugs and the little circles below them, so when the bugs die, they spawn that giant AoE that deals damage to you slowly. Those technically count as skills, and you can destroy them with this Summoner Heritage, so I'm assuming you can actually do the same with these Ravens. So let's go and try and find one of those guys. Sad thing is, so many things are just dying off screen, I have no idea. Oh, there we go. Ooh, that Raven. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was really instantaneous, but that circle on the ground got destroyed, and that Raven was just straight up zooming. See if we can find one more, get a better idea of what it looks like. Oh, here's one. Come on, run through it. Come here, Ravens. Come here, come through it. Oh, that's kind of hard to hit. This would be easier to show on the 3rd map, or when a boss spawns. But in general, this path is going to be really strong for the 3rd map. So if you guys are struggling on the Ruined Dungeon, I highly recommend this evolution path. I'm going to go ahead and I will skip to when I hit level 60, so we can take a look at the Soulstealr. I want to play on this map, but the EXP is just so much slower. We're going to go ahead and continue to play on this map. But yeah, I'll go ahead and skip to level 60 so we can see how the Soulstealr pans out. Alright guys, we're about to hit level 60 here. And I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this class so far. It doesn't feel like it was really like super nerfed or anything like that. So this is great. Again, we're going to be going Soulstealr for this one. It's the last one we haven't checked out. Whenever an enemy is killed, if a raven is nearby, their soul is ripped from their body and launched towards you, circling around with gradually increasing speed. All enemies hit by the soul take damage equal to your weapon skill with 3 times base damage. So, I mean, that's a lot of damage, honestly. 3 times damage isn't anything to really scoff at. In general, oh wow, that's cool. This is what the souls look like. So I'm happy because they definitely have a larger area than just around me. When it said around me, I figured it was going to be like this area of where the colorless glyph is, for example. So in general, I think this is great. It's much larger. It's hitting for like 4K right now. And it just looks really cool. I gotta say, no complaints there. So that is going to be all of the evolution paths. Overall, I think the Necromancer didn't get nerfed at all. I think people who really enjoy the playstyle for that mob mentality of, you know, having a ton of summons on the screen might not enjoy the changes as much, but for the average player, I would say overall this is a really good redefinition of the Necromancer class. Still sticks true to, you know, summon a bunch of summons, but now it really focuses around the Raven, which I don't think the Raven is a nerf at all. The Raven does a ton of damage. As you can see on my screen, there's nobody on my screen. The Ravens are out there doing all the work for me, which might be boring to some people. You don't get to see just a whole screen mob with skeletons, because for the most part, the skeletons don't really veer too far away from me, whereas the Ravens definitely do go a little bit farther, I have to say. But in general, I think the class is great. Both evolution paths are very fun. I actually like this evolution path the most so far. It seems like it has the most amount of damage for your whole screen. And for me, that's always something that's really important. The, you know, undead army where you get the mages and the skeletons is really nice because you can have increased archers and mages. But in general, I feel like that path is just a little bit weaker than this one. But you still get the option to go that full on, like, I'm a necromancer, I'm going to summon a bunch of undead things if you want to. Throw that in with the relics from the spectral sword and you can have a really good time. So overall, the necromancer looks like it's going to be in a great place when this major update number 5 comes out. If you guys stuck around this far, definitely like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I really have fun making this video, so it's always nice to get that support so I know which videos to keep making, basically. And as always, guys, I hope to see you on the next one. Have a good rest of your night.